Ever thought about what it'd be like if humans had wings? Not those cute, decorative, angel-style wings you see in movies. I mean a real, functional, badass pair of wings that you could actually use to fly. Like imagine it, traffic, crowds, crazy taxi fares, all gone. You want to go to work? You just jump off the balcony. You want to travel? You check your route on a weather map and take off. Tempting, right? But yeah, here's the thing. I'm here to tell you that this pretty dream would turn into a straight-up biological and engineering nightmare before it even really got started. So let's step away from the fantasy for a second and see what science says. If us humans, these whiny two-legged creatures, were ever meant to fly, we wouldn't be human at all. We'd have to be something else entirely, something like Homeland's the flying human. Now, the first and biggest obstacle standing in our way is a brutal, invisible monster called physics. And physics doesn't joke around with anyone. Here's the simple truth. For anything to leave the ground, it needs a force called lift, and that lift has to overcome its weight. So let's take an average human, an 80-kilogram guy. If he wants to do that romantic movie takeoff, run a few steps and rise into the air at about 3 meters per second. The calculations show he would need wings with an area of around 153 square meters with a wingspan of nearly 40 meters. That's basically the width of a football field. Just imagine trying to walk out of your house with an entire football field attached to your back. Your first problem wouldn't be flying. It would be getting through the door. And that's where the first law of our winged world becomes clear. Taking off from flat ground is almost impossible. So what do? We change the variables, and the most powerful variable in this equation is speed, because speed is squared, which means even a small increase changes everything. Instead of running, imagine jumping from a height, from a cliff or the top of a building, reaching a speed of 10 meters per second, basically a simple dive. Suddenly the required wing area drops to just 14 square meters. And if we optimize the wing shape, like the delta wings of fighter jets that generate more lift, that number drops even further, down to just 7 square meters. Now we're talking about a wingspan of around 6 to 7 meters, still large but no longer catastrophic. This simple physics insight gives us our first major clue. The evolution of our flying human, our homelands, could never have happened on flat plains. Our ancestors would have needed high places. Tall cliffs, deep valleys, dense forests with giant trees, places where jumping and gliding wasn't madness. It was survival. Now that we know how big our wings need to be, we face the next challenge, powering them. And this is where our anatomy would need a complete revolution. Our flat human chest bone would be useless. We would need a massive protruding ridge on our chest, just like birds have, called the keel. This structure provides the anchor point for enormous flight muscles. And enormous isn't an exaggeration. In birds, chest muscles can make up 1/6 of their entire body weight, which means for our 80-kilogram human, we'd need 13 to 16 kilograms of pure muscle just on the chest. This much muscle would inflate the chest outward, and the entire shoulder structure, the clavicle and shoulder blades, would need to fuse into a single reinforced unit to survive the brutal forces of flapping. And these massive muscles would behave like a high-consumption engine, constantly burning energy just to keep us in the air. Energy means oxygen and calories. Our tidal breathing system that pulls air in and out is insanely inefficient. Homophilans would need a one-way breathing system like birds. A system where the lungs stay fixed and a set of air sacs act like bellows pushing air, constantly in one direction across the breathing surfaces. This system extracts up to 25% more oxygen from the air and lets them breathe easily, even at high altitudes. This powerful engine also produces a lot of heat. Our body temperature, instead of 37 degrees, would constantly stay between 40 and 46 degrees Celsius. And interestingly, the calories we burn at rest would at least double. This means we would constantly need to eat. Our diet since the beginning of history would have to be full of extremely high-energy foods. No more salads and vegetables. We would need meat, fat, nuts, and anything high calorie we could get just to pay the metabolic cost of keeping this engine running, let alone flying. To compensate for this, extra weight, meaning massive muscles, our body would need to lose weight elsewhere. Our bones would have to become hollow just like birds. These pneumatic bones get filled with air by the same air sacs and drastically reduce skeleton weight. Imagine your arm or leg breaks. This would no longer be just a simple fracture, because your breathing system is connected to your bones. An open fracture would mean torn air sacs and air leaking into the body. That means rapid suffocation, a completely new medical emergency. The bladder would become a heavy, inefficient bag for carrying water, so it would have to go. Instead, nitrogen waste would be excreted as semi-solid thick uric acid, just like pigeons that redecorate our cars every day. Our digestive system would become shorter so food gets processed faster. Our arms, which are now wings, would no longer be good for delicate tasks. So what happens then? Our feet and mouth would have to take over those jobs. Homo lands would be a creature that builds tools, eats, and even builds nests using its feet, and a highly skilled beak or jaw. But nature doesn't have just one solution for flight. We also have another model of flight in mammals' bats. A bat wing is actually a modified hand shaped by evolution. Imagine taking a human hand stretching the fingers, like spaghetti until they become several times longer and then stretching a thin, flexible, tough membrane called patagium between those long fingers. Now what if our homelands evolved like bats instead of birds? We would gain incredible advantages. For example, keeping part of hand functionality. We wouldn't completely lose our hands. Those long, movable fingers inside the wing would let us do things a bird-wing creature could only dream of. For example, we could hang from cliff edges or branches. We could hold prey we caught in the air with our wings, or even use our wings to climb and move when on the ground or on vertical surfaces. Just like bats, we would gain insane maneuverability. A wing made of movable fingers can change shape instantly. A bat can open, close, or change finger angles and reshape its wings in fractions of a second and perform maneuvers birds can't even imagine. Our homelands with these wings could become extremely skilled hunters in complex environments, like dense forests or urban canyons. But this wing model also has disadvantages like lower efficiency over long distances. This flexible structure isn't as efficient for long, fast flights as the rigid, unified wings of birds. It's like comparing a glider to a highly maneuverable fighter jet. A glider travels long distances with minimal energy, but a fighter jet is built for fast maneuvers and consumes a lot of energy. So this bird-human probably couldn't migrate long distances easily and would also be more vulnerable. A wing with many moving joints is naturally more fragile. A simple fracture in one of those long fingers could disable the entire flight system. So which evolutionary path gets chosen depends completely on environmental pressures. If our ancestors lived in environments where long-distance flights between cliffs and plains were necessary to find seasonal food, evolution would likely favor stronger, more efficient bird like wings, and we would sacrifice our hands. But if our environment was dense forests or complex twisting valleys where catching fast, agile prey mattered, evolution would favor bat-like wings with controllable fingers to preserve maneuverability and grip. These two paths could even lead to two different species or races of flying humans. One sky migrants with bird wings and the other forest hunters with bat wings. Now that we engineered this strange creature, let's see how its civilization would form. Forget cities as we know them. Our lives would revolve around nests. Our megacities wouldn't spread across the ground but would grow vertically. Giant towers not as luxury apartments, but as vertical villages with residential, commercial, and even agricultural zones stacked on top of each other. The agricultural revolution might not even happen because this body isn't suited for farming. Streets and sidewalks would become meaningless. Ground level would probably be used for heavy industry or forest parks. Your front door wouldn't be on the ground floor anymore, it would be a balcony on the 5th floor. The entire civilization, we know, would have to be engineered from scratch, and nothing would be like today. Even sleeping would become a challenge. How would you lie on a bed with a 6-meter wingspan? We would probably rest like birds, maybe on special perches or vertical hammocks. Getting dressed would be its own project. Clothes would have to be aerodynamic, durable, and designed for our strange anatomy. What activity do you think would be different the most for this new flying human species compared to humans today? Write it in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe.